welcome along to a very special edition of Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and today I'm customising this Hot Wheels 91 Mazda MX-5 Miata to replicate one of YouTube's most iconic project cars. I'll be turning this model into Phil, Autoalex's 1995 3-litre V6-powered build that has been the star of his channel and precursor Car Throttle for almost 9 years at the time of recording. Let's take a closer look at Phil. The first things I sourced were these wheels to match Phil's rotor TBTs. These are actually based on SSR Type X wheels, but they were the closest I could find pre-made at this scale. Once painted and fitted with tyres, they should look pretty similar, I think. I won't talk through the full process of how to dismantle and customise or restore a diecast in this video, but if you click the link here, you'll find a helpful guide I made restoring a Matchbox Ford Escort RS2000. I list all of the tools I use on screen, but if you want any advice or tips, drop me a message in the comments or DM me on Instagram at DiecastRestos. I read all of your comments, so feel free to reach out. So, why did I choose to do a custom Phil replica? Well, I've been a long-time subscriber to Car Throttle initially, before subbing to Autoalex on day one, after he made his brave move to go it alone. One of the series that interested me most was Project MX-5 that first went out in April 2015. Nothing beats that pure rollercoaster of sheer frustration and utter despair of things going wrong to the highs of that first firing up of an engine post-swap. Certainly in the UK car circles, Phil has become a bit of an icon. Being a project car, Phil will of course change in both mechanics and appearance over time. Therefore, my custom will be a snapshot of Phil as of late February 2024. When I'm done, Lil Phil, as I'm dubbing him, will be sent on his way to Alex. It's my token of thanks for keeping me entertained week in, week out. Phil has a 3-litre Jaguar V6 mated to the original 5-speed MX-5 gearbox, and it has a valved exhaust system. Inside it has tillet bucket seats, harnesses and rollover bars, while outside it has extended wheel arches, a carbon fibre ducktail spoiler and rear panel, has the aforementioned rotor TBT wheels, and it has expertly fitted hood vents. To get to know more about Phil, I'll leave a link here to Alex's video with Richard Hammond, where he takes Richard for a spin in Phil. Phil is painted in Mazda Soul Red, which I've got to recreate, along with Phil's multitude of stickers and trinkets pasted all over it. That's all covered in a 4.5 minute decal application segment in this video, played at double to quadruple speed, so you might be able to appreciate how long this decal design took in real time. Don't worry, I'll warn you when this section's coming up if you'd rather skip over it. Right now though, I'm applying the grey primer to Lil Phil in readiness for the red coats. Anyway, onto the interior piece. Hot Wheels provided this casting with a cylindrical plastic lump for a steering wheel. However, it made for a decent steering column for me to fit this 3D printed steering wheel to replicate Phil's Momo one, albeit on the wrong side. I fully appreciate I'm not the best customiser out there and have never built an interior from scratch, as it's not my forte. I like to make use with what I already have, so Phil stays left-hand drive for this custom, I'm afraid. But let's gloss over that minor fact while I modify the base. I'm losing that horrible lump of plastic for an exhaust in order to replicate Phil's twin-exit gated system. I'll fit that to the base using aluminium tubing after washing the plastic pieces and painting Lil Phil red. So to match Mazda Soul Red, I'm painting Lil Phil in a single base coat of Tamiya's TS95 Pure Metallic Red. This will give it a subtle metallic sparkle to produce a similar candy effect. I didn't want the metallic flake to be as obvious on the final coats, so over the TS95 goes TS74 Clear Red in 2 coats. This is after 1 coat and it's already looking very similar to the Soul Red. If I wasn't already excited by this project, it was at this point that I became positively giddy. Now back to the exhaust system. For the tailpipes, I'm gluing down 2 cut pieces of aluminium tubing with an outer diameter of 2mm and inner of 1.1mm. Then for the narrower pipes, I'm using 1mm outer diameter and 0.8mm inner diameter tubing with a crimped end to keep it tidy underneath. I'll limit my exhaust detailing to this section, but I will fill the moulded plastic design with some chrome paint from my paint pen. In hindsight, I definitely should have primed and painted the steering wheel before fitting it. But at least this way I should end up with one solid coat of black over the entire piece. Next, the windscreen piece is polished, first using Polywatch scratch remover for plastics. It's removed a lot of those fine scuffs, seeing as this was a pre-loved example I picked up on eBay. Secondly, it's dunked in wood floor polish, which will give it some zing and really make it pop. And now I paint the interior black again. It'll be beneficial in the long run as there's plenty of detailing to be done here. The windscreen, now polished, needed its surround drawn in. For that, I lay down a base layer of Molotow chrome. The frame and seals I also draw in using my 0.7mm pens by Artistro. The visors are completed too. Next, I attend to the base chrome for all the car's lighting, as well as the chrome door handles. I had planned to fit a 3D printed roof to fill, but the quality was just not there. I was pretty skeptical about it anyway, as it would take a lot of the detailing away if anything. Besides, an MX-5 is meant to be a roadster, not a hardtop. The side light and turn signal lamps are replaced by turn signal air intake units, so are painted black. Just look at how similar the red Sharpie looks to the body paint colour here. It's a great match. These running lights and reflectors are all now covered with orange Sharpie. But I've missed some though, the side repeaters. I do come back to them later on when I finally realised my mistake. Again, here's that red Sharpie on chrome looking identical to the body colour. I've always used Sharpie over a chrome base for the taillights and turn signals, as I find it gives a much more realistic level of depth to the lamps. Onto the interior next, which I attack with a variety of Artistro paint pens. I've drawn in the red stitched upholstery that Phil has as an interior, then the silver vent surrounds, yellow centre marker on the steering wheel, red eject button, and now some more upholstery at the back of the cabin. The green of Phil's Takata harnesses are drawn in, along with the yellow pinstripes in the same pattern as the exterior decals shortly afterwards. Here's the base for the missing side repeaters, and now the final touches to the window piece. I managed to just about draw in the tear-shaped speaker surrounds in the door cards, before adding in the last of the exterior colour application. I always coat the exterior lighting with Citadel Gloss Nuln Oil, as it helps to differentiate the lighting from the rest of the body, especially on red cars. It just gives it that little extra touch of depth and realism, I feel. Okay, 30-second warning, decal application is coming up. I designed all of these after meticulously studying Alex's videos for hours on end. At this point, he was totally unaware of this project. I wanted to get the stickers and finer details just right. The smallest of these were just 1mm by 1mm, and they all found their way onto the model, eventually. First, I apply the front registration plate to a piece of thin white styrene. The casting handily has a registration bracket ready-made, so this will be glued to it later on. I had to make the yellow stripes a bit thicker than they are in reality, as I didn't want to use clear water slide paper. Lighter colours like yellow get washed out by darker body colours when printed on clear, so all but the bonnet vents and faint Mazda badge were printed on white backed decal paper. Even though they were a bit denser than I would have ideally liked, I'm still quite content with their look. But it's early doors yet, as now the bonnet vents are added in over the top of the stripes. There's no lack appeal here, Alex, don't you worry. Next, it's the turn of the fiddly Mazda emblem, which is barely visible. Then it's the carbon ducktail spoiler, Moss Miata and Tillet racing seat stickers to the left hand side, and Saunders detailing and TaylorMade car stickers to the right. Now it's the biggie. I spent an age finding out what stickers the rear panel had, scaling it and finalising its design. So it has the carbon backing, registration plate, and right to left classic Nürburgring sticker, Save the Multipler, Autoalex, Shitbox Appreciation Society, Tillet, Carbon Miata, Petrol Heart, Raw Colt, and TaylorMade car stickers crammed into that tiny space. Speaking of tiny, here's the Philist side quarter sticker. I'm sure I've missed something, but my eyes wouldn't forgive me for staring at any more freeze frames of fill. Now I'm locking in all of those decals with Mr. Mark's softer solution, which helps to soften and secure decals ahead of a clear coat later on. Like the water slides, any excess moisture from the Mr. Mark is rolled out with a cotton bud. Moving on to the interior, first to go in is the Shut Up, I fucking got this armrest sticker. I think that's turned out pretty well. Now I begin the fun part, the collection of teeny tiny stickers. The Tillet racing seats have Tillet racing seats decals fitted to the headrests. Then another Tillet sticker is added to the left rollover bar upright. After this comes an ACT Advanced Clutch Technology decal on the top horizontal bar. On the left diagonal bar, which isn't moulded in, Alex has another Moss sticker and a Nürburgring bridge-to-gantry.com sticker. On the opposing bar, we find an EBC brake sticker and another Moss sticker on the right upright. Lastly, and despite it technically being on the base of the hardtop window, goes a Wrench Studios sticker. And that was that. All of the decals are now affixed and we'll be ready to move on to clear coating the lot to protect them all next. That was until I logged into Instagram and saw this. Phil had a new registration plate. So I posted my progress on Instagram and got a response from Alex. I had to ask the question.
Hold out your hand.
It wasn't any trouble really. I designed these plates to match Phil's new look and set to work on applying them. I opted to layer the new plate over the old one on the rear, rather than replace the entire back end big decal. I think it looks fine, and if it wasn't for this video evidence, you'd be none the wiser. And then finally, we can clear coat the interior and body. I wouldn't usually clear coat a plastic interior, but I made an exception considering all of the tiny sticker replicas and painted in details. Each had 2 helpings of clear lacquer. Last thing before reassembly is the front plate, which I glue over that helpfully positioned flat area on the Hot Wheels casting. And there we have it. Let's put Lil Phil together for the first time. I first slot in the plastic windscreen piece. After that comes the interior. And then it's the turn of the base. That clicks over the 2 tapped rivet posts and each receives a 3mm M2 screw to complete the build. So let's remind ourselves how the casting started out. It's a pretty cool little model of a slightly modified MX-5 with its wider arches, splitter, roll bar and ducktail spoiler. These features lent themselves perfectly to a conversion to the king of MX-5s, Autoalex's fill. I spent a long time trying to perfect my replica by matching the carbon, decals, colour and interior. Was my effort worth it? Tell me in the comments how I did. I wanted this to be my tribute to one of the most popular project cars on YouTube, so I set my standards high for this custom. Matching the paint was my key first step in recreating fill. With that and the wheels, the decal design work came next, which was time well invested, especially on the tail end. The tailpipe addition is another transformative feature of an interesting behind. From top down, we can appreciate the shut up decal between the seats. Like I said before, I'm far from the best at creating intricate custom interiors, but I do try my best with the interiors I'm given by the manufacturer. Another feature you can appreciate from above is the windscreen frame. To me, it's incredible that some chrome paint and red Sharpie match the body paint combo of pure metallic and clear reds. Let me know if there's anything you think I could improve on. All feedback is welcome, as without it, this channel probably wouldn't exist. I just want to thank Alex for both the inspiration and his receptiveness to my little project. He's a top guy. I also want to thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more projects like this and more YouTube car recreations, leave the video a like. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my releases, and stay tuned for some gratuitous photos with some extra fill footage in the outro. So thanks for watching, and see you again for the next one.